Well, howdy. You're welcome. It's that time of year. You know our drill when all the greatest hardware drops and, those 4090s are out. Bigger, larger, better, faster. But before we can get to that sort of mumbo jumbo, unfortunately, real people have real work. And I'm not negging. This is Tech Consults episode, and this is why they're structured like this. 3.0 is just released. This is episode 3.1, part of ongoing 3.0 or episode 3. And there's been a little bit of life stirred into this machine behind me. Okay, so I'll give you the reiteration of what has basically occurred. For the full story, have a look at episode 3.0 of Tech Consults, just released the other day, people, and it will shed light on the monstrosity of stuff that's been going on regarding this build, getting it done for Mr. JZ. Today we're going to call him. We had Mr. X the other few days ago now, but this is Mr. JZ. So Mr. JZ essentially had a power cycle of death occurring, and we eventually, through all the troubleshooting, we had to establish that it was coming down to a RAM issue as well. Okay, even though everything suggested it was other things, it was pointing to other things, it ended up being a RAM issue. Okay, like usual. On the board itself, known to frequently happen back in the day. In fact, troubleshooting and stuff like that in relation to these boards are sprawled all over the internet, the archival graveyard of around this era having these type of, in this case, the modules on the motherboard itself fail. Okay, so this RAM might not be the best here, this finicky RAM here, but on top of that, I did have 4 uber special DDR3 test modules, which are nothing crazy. They're a set, 8 gigabytes, always work, never get abused and or used wrongly unless the motherboard fries them, and made the PC act slightly differently. And then with process of error, mad amounts of turning on and off the PC and having to address those RAM slots. Now, to do this and have access, we have to get also rid of the cooler, which we're going to have to reassemble. I have no idea how this monstrosity exactly works. I apologize in advance. It's now going to be covering an i7 3770 4-core 8-threaded beast from yesteryear, replacing the i5 2400. Okay, so we've upgraded the CPU and the processor for the gentleman. Unfortunately, he's only going to be stuck with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Not 100% sure, because I'm keeping it a secret for myself, whether that's going to be dual rank or single rank RAM. I'm hoping it's dual rank, the way it's set up, but I'm going to find that out after I post. We get the CPU cooler on, we get the diagnostical software on. I'm happy with us getting into Windows, and then I'll knock out CPU-Z and we'll have a look at the end, because the best I can do for this gentleman in relation to getting this up and running for him without changing over the motherboard, which is not an option currently, unfortunately, he's going to only have 8 gigabytes of RAM. I'm hoping it's in dual rank, so it's a little bit more bum, rather than depleting one. Okay, to get around putting that cooler on and off heaps of times, a little tip is you got these old server copper blocks, if you're not using the server currently, and you just chuck it down, put the fan on, and it's enough leeway to get you by. Okay, unfortunately, to work in Windows and get a bit more up and running, because I noticed a bit of Windows once I got in there, and that's malware-tastic, frankly, but Mr. JZ's adamant that it's all the important things he needed. I'm like, is this a fresh operating system install? It's like, where's like bloatware much? You know what I mean? But yeah, now that he's only going to have 8 gigabytes of memory, it's much more crucial that he has a clean operating system. It's something I'm going to try to partake and pass on to the gentleman before he thinks about upgrading. He sometimes might not need to if everything's up in order, you know what I mean? But if you've got a lot of background tasks running needlessly, a lot of other things, you know, a lot of things on startup, which are just clutter, you know, 3 different antiviruses and, you know, who knows what else. Plus all the launches running simultaneously for God knows what reason if you're not playing any of the games. It starts to get really dreary on especially 8 gigabytes of memory when in this day and age you need about 4.5 gigabytes for Windows 10 Pro and whatnot. But yeah, so these are CPU block coolers. Like this is about 800 grams of copper, but they also slide as a really nice recycled business card holder, which is cool. I like that. But yeah, enabled us to turn it off and on the 150 times to get the sequence and trial error of events to work out what's running where and how and what, you know, without giving him any parts which haven't been paid for because I don't have anything to replace these parts for diagnostical purposes. Then yeah, this is the best I could do for a gentleman. So now it's a matter of popping this cooler back on and getting into Tech Consult episode 3.1. So let's go, people. It's a little bit more explanation, but we can get into it at the other camera angles and whatnot. So let's go. But before venturing forward, just a word from our sponsors. So let's go, people.
If you need to upgrade your space, and if you're feeling like it's a frame race, fuck that marketplace. Come to TechCore. With every $1,000 purchase, there's a free fruit basket thrown in. So you're feeling out of place, and you want to join the master race. It's easy at TechCore. Come down to TechCore where you can buy yourself a GPU with a thrown-in power supply that'll never power it and end up being a brick. It's a massive commercial place, and if you can't get to our space, means you're an idiot, but we're online in your face. TechCore, TechCore.
No offense to the young fella. Jay's a great bloke, and thanks to his Micro Center endorsement, there is what could have been TechCore. But anyway, let's get into this. Tech Consults episode 3.1. And here it is, people, 3.1. I had to change the 0.1, obviously. So lots of work been going on the back end. But apart from what was mentioned in relation to the everything that has to be put back on and whatnot, and we've also got this very nice, speaking of GPUs, got this very nice 1060, which honestly needs a bit of TLC. It has not had the warranty sticker at all removed, so that's a good sign. It hasn't been tampered with, but upon closer inspection, it's got some corrosion occurring and all rust. So at some point for better lifespan, I'm sure this needs a repaste. 1060 6GB Asus ROG Strix. It's got the RGB going down here and here, I believe. And yeah, she's a nice little card, but I don't think she'll last much longer in a heat-soaked environment. And or she could perform so much better with a repaste, I believe. But we'll suss it out once we've got it in there and we're optimizing the system on the whole. And that in mind, we've also got the what is an 80 plus certified Silverstone. It's only a 500 watt power supply. I can't really recommend more. I would recommend a 550 watt essentially for this type of a setup. But yeah, there isn't much more to the mix, and the power supply is not faulty. So go figure. Well, I smelled something a little burny, but there wasn't no formaldehyde. There was nothing else. There was definitely no caps gone or anything like that. You notice that sort of stuff in the power supply, that's for sure. But it was working fine. My one was working fine. There was just a figment of my imagination looking for something else, because everything was suggesting that it was the power supply to begin with. Even the beep code errors that were displayed utilizing our little, well, it's actually quite a long, which now can be tucked away for another day, diagnostical speaker. I've actually got a few of them, because these tend to fail at times, worst possible times. My own ones, I like to hear a post beep when I start up the systems, generally speaking. But then on top of that, apart from popping that back on and whatnot, we've got this cable management to do. And yeah, I'm going to do a solid for the gentleman. While I'm here, my OCD can't allow this to behave in the way it is. So we've got also, luckily, again, I have to scrimp out of the bottom of the barrel. We've got little bits of Arctic silver and some Cooler Master, just a smidget left for enough thermal paste for this CPU just. And we got some zip ties, plenty of zip ties and whatnot. And we gave the dust guard for the bottom side of the power supply a once over as well already. So this is an MSI case, and it's a gigabyte motherboard that wasn't mentioned before, but it's got some LIAN Li fans and whatnot, and it's a bit of a monstrosity of exactly how that works. I'm going to have to shoot blind with it. The gentleman was like, don't worry about it. It's the worst case scenario. I'll make it look better than it was before. I don't have to worry about it. I know how everything was connected in relation to the fans onto the motherboard. The RGB is another monstrosity of, I don't exactly know, because yeah, there's apart from that, there's a couple of SATA connections that have to go into a mechanical hard drive, as well as only a 120 gigabyte SSD. So it's a bit measly, the system. It needs to be bolstered up a little bit. I've got like two 240 gigabyte SSDs. We could reinstall Windows for him and chuck two of those in a RAID 0 fashion for performance gains, in this case in a 500 gig boot drive, through the old school legacy system that is the partitioning available in these systems. But unfortunately, we're not going to get a chance to play with some of my specialties in relation to these systems and optimization of that day and age. It's been a while as well, but yeah, so let's get into it. So in a matter of moments, you shall traverse through this time with some sort of beat.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Got a buildup of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby, have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no, you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all the pain.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away, as you fade away. as you fade away, as you fade away. Tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay
Start the recording. Oh guys, we had an interlude and yikes, but as you can see over there, we have the CPU fan installed. We are just going to install the GPU. No, it's GPU, and it's a 6GB Asus ROG Strix GTX 1060. Very, very decent. We're going to plug it in, and then we've got one fan to isolate whether it needs to be plugged in or not, and at what point. And hopefully we'll get proper cooling now, proper application of thermal paste, and yeah, everything working. Bar it be perhaps just one fan for the time being, but you can't win them all, but we'll get that working as well. Cross our fingers. So let's finish it up.
We can make an impact, grab it, then take it.
Alrighty. So that's about as much as I can do for this gentleman. We've got it running off 8 gigabytes. You know, it should be able to play Valorant. Unfortunately, he wants to play Apex Legends, so it's a massive question as to how he'll go about pressing forward. But at the very least, he's got something sturdy to get into watching the TikToks and that. You know, with a bigger screen. You know, there's a bit more room there's a bit more elbow room if you get my drift. But yeah, you know, YouTube and learn something, get inspired, and make sure you make a really educated choice pressing forward regarding his next purchase, which he says it's going to be a big one. Cross my fingers, maybe I get to build it for him. I'd like to optimize these fans. Still sounds like a rotary engine in the background. Although as soon as there's some ambient noise in the room, it does drown it out, but far out, guys. Like, I optimized that server underneath and it doesn't sound as crazy as what this sounds to me currently, because it shouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Like, that sound you get used to because it's sort of meant to be. That, yeah, it's funny. I might spend the time when the gentleman comes over, Mr. JD or whatever his code name was today. This has been another Tech Consults episode 3.1, but when JD comes around, I might spend some time trying to work out what the funny business is exactly with the fans. He says he knows, so we'll see. But perhaps when I don't mention this and he doesn't mention this, I'll understand what he likes about computers. I'll suggest to him, have you not heard my PC silent? And then I'll show him a load test on one of my PCs and how they ramp up accordingly. The helper lever stuff is great in a place where it's needed, but otherwise silence is nice. You know, he can download a game overnight and stuff like that, and you know, he doesn't have to hear it roaring like that. But yeah, my name's Sabluka. Thanks for joining us at TECHNESS Corner for Tech Consults episode 3.1. It's been a great success, so peace out, y'all. Bye.